Hi everybody, this is Leah at Fresh Astrology, and I am going to talk to you about the eclipse. But before we get started, I just want to mention my website, which is www.freshastrology.com. There you can order a personal reading by going to, if you go up to the little tab at the top, you hit store, and you can go in there to order a personal reading or a coaching session. I do life coaching. I'm certified as a Martha Beck life coach, and we use a type of coaching called wayfinding, which you can go to Martha's site, marthabeck.com, and you can navigate your way to the definition of wayfinding and watch her videos explaining it. But basically it's a way of tapping into your internal resources and learning how to drive them and how to use them more powerfully, because a lot of times we just feel disconnected from that. We don't even know we have it, that internal navigation system. A lot of people don't even really understand that they have it. Or if they think about it, they think it's in the brain, like how you use logic, and that's not what we do at all. And we don't even necessarily set goals, although we can. It's more we just learn how to use that navigation system so that you have more control over your vehicle, so to speak. So that's life coaching, and then I am also running different events that are either live or live on the phone with me, or in a webinar format where you're working with me kind of one-on-one. We'll be in a group, and then I'm also going to put some classes there, so just be on the lookout. They tend to go quickly because the groups, especially when I'm working with you guys like I'm live, it's not a recording. For me to really do a good job working with you, it has to be a smaller group. So they sell out fast. So if you see one pop up, and I'll try to keep, when I do my weekly Friday astrology YouTube videos that are the short ones that show up usually around Thursday or Friday, I'll try to alert you. I'll try to alert you on Instagram and Facebook, but they've tended to fill up quickly, and I've discovered that the group really does, especially if I'm live, it needs to be a smaller group so everybody feels like they're taken care of. So watch for those, and on to Eclipse o'clock, which you'll learn about in a minute. Hi Aries, we are looking at your eclipse on February 15th, 2018, and the areas of impact for you. So the prior eclipse, the full moon eclipse that we just had, was hitting the same axis in a slightly different area, but in the same axis of Aquarius and Leo, and hitting for you guys on the astrology chart we have houses. It was hitting the 11th house and the 5th house. When you look at the combined meanings of these houses, you know, they're multi-layered, but they're certainly social. They have a lot to do with the people in your world. So a lot of you will find that your social life is changing. And it could be that some people are falling away and you're expanding mostly. There's this new start on the 15th, or around, you know, within a month around the 15th, there's this new start, expanding your world, expanding your social world. So these may not be your best buddy kind of social people, but you're expanding your reach and you're expanding who you know. You're expanding your world through contacts with people. So it's great networking energy. And whatever you're starting this week, as I said in the overall eclipse forecast for everyone, in that one I explain a lot about how whatever you're starting now has a long reach. So in other words, if you're in your 40s and 50s, I would say this really impacts the rest of your life, like the second half of your life. If you're you know, in your 20s or 30s, it still goes out a long way. And so the decisions you're making, so be aware of the decisions you're making and the choices you're making. Choice, decision, they're the same word, but you know, I'm trying to hit different people where they are. So think about and notice what you are agreeing to or not agreeing to this week. What are you walking away from? What are you walking toward? Imagine if each, I would say this week, a good way to go into it is imagine that each decision you make really lasts, let's try 5 years. I don't want to scare you with longer, but it really lasts longer. But you could say, okay, this decision I'm making lasts 20 years. So it might be good for people who are wanting to like lose weight or something. Like if I eat this cookie now, it's going to be with me for 20 years. That's not the worst way to think about it this particular week. So this would be a not so great week to start things, to go down the pathway of our worst habits. So if we want to establish better habits, this is a great week to kickstart some good habits because the choices you are making now have such long-term impact. So beginning an exercise, even though this hits across your social world, I'm just giving you an idea how impactful. So, but back to, let's say, social and children too. So the choices that we make for children this week, or that are made for children this week, or the things that happen around children, be aware that the choices you're making for them can impact their next, let's say, 20 years. So if we want to be comfortable with the choice we're going to make this week or in the following few weeks, think like, if I make this decision, this will impact my child. Let's just say it impacts them for 20 years. Don't let that scare you, but it may strengthen maybe a risky feeling decision, like pulling them out of school and putting them somewhere else or sending them on some kind of program. Be aware of what the program is. So like, say just to give a quick example, you're sending a child, and if you don't have children, listen up because this still impacts you. Think of your choices that are like this, because it's in the area of fun, things we choose to do for fun, things we're setting up in our lives that will maybe improve romance or fun or friendship. So listen, even if you don't have children or never plan to have children, listen to what I'm saying anyway, because little pieces of it will actually apply to you. So I would say pay attention and don't tune out what you think doesn't apply to you, because you may miss the thing that does. Let's say you're looking, often as parents, we're looking at the summers about now. We're thinking, well, how is my child going to spend his or her time? What would most benefit my child? Does my child need just a break from everything and total rest and relaxation and quiet? Does my child need some rest, just some downtime to chill? So then you choose how everybody in the family is going to create that, because if you work full time, how are you going to create that R&R for your child? You have to start thinking about that now. And then by giving your child that, what are you teaching that child? How might what you give your child this summer impact the next 20 years? What are you teaching your child if you create this bubble of R&R? If you're choosing like a summer program where maybe you have a choice between, and just understand I'm being funny when I make these, so I'm not talking down to any particular sector. But like, say you're like, well, my child could go to makeup application camp. And again, I wear makeup. I was actually a makeup artist when I was much younger. You wouldn't know it necessarily now, but when I was in my 20s, I made money doing that. So, I'm all for makeup, but let's just keep in mind what we're choosing, what kind of choices, if they're long lasting. So my child goes to makeup camp, or I could send my child to this program where they learn about saving whales, or they learn how to be, a diplomat, or they learn how to, they learn about government or something. Know that this is a very long lasting. Now, there's again, to show how unbiased I really am about this, you look at your child and who your child actually is. Maybe sending them to makeup application camp would set them up for a lifetime of owning a business and designing products and becoming a bazillionaire because you sent them to makeup camp. So I'm really not dissing the makeup camp. But if your child has some interest, or maybe just no interest, but you see your child has certain gifts that it just seems like, they don't know it, my child doesn't know it, but sending them to the Save the Whales camp, or to, some camp that teaches them about government, the way government functions, I just know my child will probably be intrigued by this. I have a feeling it would be good for them. And I don't exactly know why, but I just had this deep sense. Know that these choices are very important. So, and know, like, say one's costs less than the other, but you're really wanting the more expensive thing. You really have the strong feeling the more expensive one will work. These choices are very important. This is the same for you, too. So let's say you're wanting to have more fun in life, which I think a lot of Aries are thinking about that. And they want to expand their world. They want to get out there and network more and have more reach somehow, maybe for business. Excuse me, my throat. I talk a lot when I do these, so it gets really dry. So what choices, be thoughtful about how you spend your time, and there's a temptation often for a lot of us to, once we want to make a choice, we open up and we open it up to like so many choices it's hard to decide. And this is where each one of you is just going to have to go inside and kind of feel around. And this is what we work on in coaching. How do you figure out when you're confused what the right choice is? How do you know how to make the right choice? How do you know you're making the right choice? Something we work on in coaching, because there are ways to know. I would say this. If you watch my video from Friday, so yesterday, if you watch my video from February, what was the date, 9th, I talk a lot about the difference between a truth and a lie and the way your body feels. A yes and a no feel similar, so you can try that technique. There's more involved, like when I'm coaching you, we really go in depth on this, but you can actually know the right decision. Your body will actually tell you. Your body has a huge intelligence that we're not accustomed to tapping into. But just be aware of what you're setting up this week has long-term implications, and you may need to narrow down your choices. You may need to give up going in one direction so you can go in another and commit to it. And I think that would be another good way, just to end on that note, that narrowing down to one or two directions to go into rather than 10 different directions right now is going to be more effective for you over the long term. If you go in 10 different directions right now, that will impact you long term, but it may just spread you so thin that you never really get the effectiveness that you want out of whatever it is you're choosing. So be mindful of that, and happy eclipse. Take care.